Hello YouTube and welcome back to another video. This is Champion 2D Rob back again, and this is the final part, guys. It's the final part of my Megadrive collection. I know it's been a while since the last video, but I've just been caught up playing other games and stuff like that. So usually if I'm busy sort of playing games, YouTube kind of takes a back seat a little bit. It just is what it is. But anyway, it's here now. Final part of my Mega Drive collection. This is going to be my imports, so my Genesis games and my Japanese Mega Drive games. It's actually going to be the shortest video in the series, just simply because I've never really put any focus on buying import titles. When I basically decided to collect for the Mega Drive, I wanted to focus mainly on PAL titles, but then I sort of decided to go after a few exclusives. Unfortunately, over time I kind of got distracted picking up games for other systems, and then when I kind of sort of got back into the Mega Drive, the prices have kind of shot up since the times from when I was collecting, so it's really slowed sort of buying import games right down, just because pretty much the games that I want go over £100 and more, and it is very difficult, especially when I'm trying to also collect for Super Famicom as well. And again, those titles are very expensive as well, so I kind of sort of have to prioritize. But in any case, these are my Japanese and Genesis titles. So like I say, there's not a lot here. So we'll just get started. I suppose we'll start with Genesis. We'll start with my American titles here. Now, actually, before we get into Genesis, I do actually have one game here which I don't classify as either. It's not technically part of my collection. It's not a Japanese game or a Genesis game, but it's an interesting title. It's a bit of an oddity. Basically, this is a title that was supposed to come out for the Mega Drive, but it got cancelled. The game itself is unfinished, but for me it was nice to kind of have it physically for the collection, and it's just a nice little oddity to have. It's not a great game, but it's just a nice sort of title to have, just because of, you know, it's an unreleased title, and that's Ninja Gaiden for the Mega Drive. And what this game is like, essentially, it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. In fact, it's very close to the arcade original, which, if you're familiar with that, you'll know that it's not a side-scrolling action platformer, but rather a side-scrolling beat 'em up in the guise of like a Streets of Rage. And yeah, just sort of nice to have it physically. There's no manual to it. It's just a cartridge. And the game is unfinished. It's an unfinished prototype title, but as I am a fan of the Ninja Gaiden series, I thought it was a nice sort of little curiosity to add into the collection. Now we're moving straight into the title. So the first Genesis game I'm going to talk about is Road Rash again. And this is actually my original title that I had from when I was a kid. I actually rebought it to get a PAL copy when I sort of started collecting, you know, just from my OCD, like I needed to have all 3 PAL games. But this was actually the one that I had as a kid, which was a bit weird. Back in the day, I do seem to recall game shops stocking Genesis titles. There were a few Genesis games of the common titles that were sort of region free, and this was one of them. So this was what I had as a kid, and I just decided to keep it. Okay, next Genesis game I have here, and this is actually a really cool game. I'm actually very glad to pick this one up. It's a Genesis exclusive, and it falls under a genre that I like, which is the run and gun, and that is Midnight Resistance. So this title only came out in Japan and USA, never came out in Europe, and it's a really cool run and gun title. So if you like games like your Contras, it's very similar to that. Although it has a very unique sort of gameplay style. As you can see, you've got manual and cartridge, and yeah, it has a quite a unique gameplay style to it. Like it uses the sort of 3-button layout, but it doesn't really play. It's quite tricky. It's quite tricky. It has been a while since I've played it. Admittedly, it's been a while, but it's a cool game, and it's definitely one that I'm actually really happy to get for the collection. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think the price on this game has gone up now. I'm not too sure, but at the time I didn't pay a lot for it. I think I must have paid about, I think it was about £12, something like that. But this was back in the day. This was a while back. Okay, and finally, not that many Genesis games. I've only got one more, and this is a real good one. And the reason why I picked this up, this is a Genesis exclusive as well. And the reason why I picked up this game is because I was a huge fan back in the 90s. I was a huge fan of this IP, and when I found out that this game came out in the US, I had to bag myself a copy. And I was actually very lucky. I managed to score a brand new sealed game, and it was mint, absolute mint, which is saying something, because unfortunately it's one of those Genesis games that came out in that horrible cardboard case rather than a plastic case, so like similar to like a Sonic and Knuckles. And the game I bought was Gargoyles. So I've got it in a Megadrive protector case, because it is cardboard, but it's absolutely mint. I was very lucky with this one, and yeah, it's if you're not sure what this game is like, it's basically an action platformer, and it's fun, but it is hard. Like, it's a very difficult game. I'm not gonna lie. The first level, it's a very long level, but it gets very tricky in places, and unfortunately the hit detection on it is actually a bit off as well, I find. But visually it's really nice. It's a very cool game, but yeah, it does have its flaws though. I do think it's unnecessarily unfair, especially at the first level though. It's surprisingly tricky. But I was really happy though to get this game in the collection. As like I say, it was exclusive to the US, and it's just nice to have. Like that's probably one of the things that I do enjoy, is sort of going after exclusives. I mean, it's not a strict thing, but I prefer, sort of Genesis wise, I do prefer to go after the exclusives. And this is probably like the rarest game I have for the Genesis. I know it's not the rarest game, but in terms of this condition, it's quite hard to find. So I was really lucky to get this one. Okay, so now we're moving on to my Japanese games. I've got a few here, not that many, but just a few. And let's start with two games here that I actually bought from a YouTuber a long time ago. And I can't remember. I think it was I think we'd done a trade. I believe it was a trade, and then he sort of threw in a few extra games, and I believe these were the extra games that he threw in. And at least to my memory, I can't quite remember, but the YouTuber I was dealing with, this was years ago though, was Ninja Bear Hug, Stu, and he doesn't do gaming vids anymore. Like he's still on YouTube, but he sort of does a completely he does like I think it's home improvement style videos, like sort of fixing stuff up. Like he's not into gaming anymore. But yeah, so we sort of did this trade. I can't remember exactly what it was for though. But he threw in these two games for me. And yeah, I was just really chuffed by them. And the one game was Cyber Police eSWAT. And unfortunately, it is missing the manual. There's no manual. But the reason I believe I asked, he threw this game in for me because I said that I really like the artwork. Like I don't even own eSWAT on the PAL Megadrive, but I wanted the Japanese version just because I really did like the artwork. It's fantastic artwork. So yeah, so that's it's really cool. It's a like an action platformer type game, shoot 'em up game. Yeah, cool. I enjoy it. And the other one he sent me here, and I think he threw this in. Or did I buy this off him? I can't remember. But it's the Japanese version of Pisces Havoc, and that's Captain Lang. And I actually prefer the Japanese version to the PAL version. It's got no manual, and because I find the game a little bit fairer, it's a little bit easier, and I think there's an extra level on this as well. Yeah, there's like an opening level that wasn't in the PAL version. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because I'm just going off memory here. It's been a while. But yeah, really chuffed to have this. And I've also noticed this game has really gone up in price. So it's nice to have both the PAL and the Japanese version. It's a shame it's not complete, but it's a really cool game. It's a really fun mascot platformer type game. A lot of fun. Next Japanese title I have here, and that is Hokuto no Ken, or otherwise known as Fist of the North Star. And this game actually did come out in Europe and in America. It was known as Last Battle. Essentially, they had to remove the Fist of the North Star license when they released it in Europe and the US. And it's essentially a beat 'em up that you sort of fight on one plane and you sort of kick and punch enemies. But why did I go for this one? Well, because I'm a massive fan of Fist of the North Star, and so I wanted to have this particular version of the game. Admittedly, the game is not that good. It really isn't. It's a below average title, admittedly. But what makes this version better than the European version is the fact that in the European version, when you punched and kicked your enemies, they would just fly off the screen. But in this version, when you punch and kick them, they sort of explode in like a ball of blood. So there are differences, and it's a lot, just in my opinion, it just makes the game a lot better. But it's a really nice title to have anyway. It's a really nice condition, and it is complete. And yeah, it's basically one for my sort of Fist of the North Star little subset that I sort of have going on. It's just, I just wanted to have it really. I was aware that it was an average game, but it was I wanted to have it. Next game I have here, and this is Darius II. So this is yeah, this is part of the Darius series, obviously. It's a horizontal shoot 'em up, and I can't remember. I don't know why I've still got it in a baggie, but leave that there. Yep, it is complete. Really lovely condition. Yeah, just a really fun horizontal shooter. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Darius games, and it's a really cool version. So yeah, chuffed to have that one. And finally, my next two games here are big hitters. Very big hitters. Two titles that I definitely wanted to have for my collection, and definitely are two of my crown jewels of my collection. And so the first one up I have here is Bare Knuckle 3, Streets of Rage 3. Why did I opt to buy Bare Knuckle 3 when I also have Streets of Rage 3 on the PAL Megadrive? Well, for the simple reason that it's the better version. For one thing, it's a lot fairer. The difficulty level is a lot more even, a lot more fairer. And also the PAL Megadrive and also the US version, the Western release, had been cut. There is a missing boss battle that was taken out. The character of Ash, who was a very flamboyant character, shall we say. He was a boss character that was removed for the Western release, so it's just nice to have it back in the see it properly in the Japanese release. And also other little differences like the costumes. Axel's costume, for example, is back. He's now back in his traditional white t-shirt, as opposed to the Western release where he's like wearing like a yellow t-shirt for some reason. But yeah, I'm really chuffed to have this, and of course I have it in a box protector. It is complete, and yeah, it's definitely one of my crown jewels. Whenever I play Streets of Rage 3, I always put this one on. It's worth noting, guys, if you want to see the differences between the Western release and the Japanese release, if you have the recent Megadrive collection that came out on current consoles, if you just switch the region on it, you can play both, and you will see the differences for yourself. So you don't have to go out of your way and to buy an import copy. Just try it out on that compilation, and you will see the differences between the Western release and the Japanese release. And finally, guys, this is one title that I've wanted for a very long time, and it was a game that I actually bought off another YouTuber, a good friend of mine on YouTube, Ben Shanmuso. And yeah, so he was selling up basically his Mega Drive games, and this was a title that had been in this collection for a long time, and he offered it up for sale. I jumped on it straight away. He did me a really fair price on it, and I was chuffed to get it because it's in really nice condition, and it is a jewel in my collection, and that is Pulseman. And if you're not aware of Pulseman, it's like a mascot style platformer. Really cool game, really novel game. This was a Japanese exclusive. It never came out in Europe, and I believe it was released in America, but as part of, what was it called, the Sega TV channel. It was like an internet service, so you had like, that was like an early version of sort of a digital game. Really cool platformer. It was developed by Game Freak, the people that did the Pokemon games, as well as one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games, Drill Dozer. But yeah, really cool game. It's definitely worth picking up, guys, if you can get it for a decent price. Really chuffed to get it. It is complete and in very nice condition, and yeah, really chuffed to have it. So that is it, guys. That is the end of my collection. I know it's not the biggest collection, guys. I was thinking about whether I shouldn't have maybe left this as the last, but yeah, I don't have that many titles for the Genesis and Japanese Mega Drive, but I'm happy to have the ones that I do have. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. Everyone that's watched all the videos, it's greatly appreciated, guys. Everyone that's left me likes, left me comments, thank you so much, guys. Finally, I'm glad to get to the end of the Mega Drive collection for 2020, and I will be back with another video soon. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and yeah, I'll see you again. Bye bye.